Welcome to UK Matters in Accounting, one of 5 shows going out every day of the week from the Accounting Influencers podcast network. Hey, I'm Rob Brown, one of your hosts. I'm here with guest host Lucy Cohen, and this UK Matters in Accounting show is when we do exactly that. We look at UK-centric topics that affect the accounting practitioners out there, bookkeepers, fintech professionals that are serving the accounting profession. Lucy, we are in event season. There's lots going on there. You've had a little bit of FOMO recently.
I had such bad FOMO, Rob, so I didn't go to Accountex North in Manchester, mainly because I decided it was very wise to take on 8 salespeople in one go, and they've sapped up a lot of my time. That be a lesson to myself. But also, I'm quite guarded with how much energy I expend and making sure that I have some boundaries for myself and learning to say no to things. And it just didn't align with what I was doing this year. But despite the fact that I knew all that, and despite the fact that I knew it was the right decision for me, I couldn't help but feel massively like the kid that wasn't invited to the party when I saw all the photos and all the selfies of everybody online. And I had huge FOMO from it.
And you're a member of our Accounting Influencers Roundtable, which is a specialist trusted community of door openers and influencers in the accounting and fintech world, both in the UK and the US, and shortly to be Australia and New Zealand. And that's a very intimate experience because you develop really strong relationships there. And when we go to events like this, it's a little bit of a secret party, isn't it, with the members of AIR?
It is. And I saw everyone posting up all the photos and I just felt really jealous.
Yeah.
I did.
When you think about FOMO like that, you obviously can't go to everything. So the message here is for people to make judicious decisions, strategic decisions on what to say yes to and what to say no to.
Yeah, and this is a thing. So I had to have a bit of a word with myself actually when I was kind of feeling a bit depressed about the whole thing last week. In that you can't do everything. I could literally spend September through to end of December probably going to, because it's awards season as well. So it's not just conference season, it's awards season. And I span both accounting and business and I get invited to things. I could spend every week at an award ceremony. I could spend hours, days traveling, staying in hotels. And as someone who's still running an accountancy business, I still have a responsibility to my management team and my staff to be available to them to help them develop. We're in a growth phase. So I do have responsibility to make sure that I'm hitting metrics for myself and my board. And it just didn't fit this time. So I had to have a little word with myself and just remind myself of the reasons I decided not to go.
Yes.
And ultimately, like you said, you can't do everything. And I think something we forget when we're attending conferences or award ceremony is to go there with intention. Yes, some of them are massive fun and some of them are just great to be able to go and catch up with people and network. But if you're only going to these things and you're only seeing the same people and you're having the same conversations and then you're getting back to your desk and you're taking no action from it, I have to question how much you really got out of all that time out of the office. You know, if you're running an accountancy business and you're a practitioner and you're in the thick of it, your time away from your desk or your clients or your staff has to be worthwhile. There has to be a return on that. So as much as I'd love to, I can't just go and have a jolly all the time. I do have some work to do. And I think it's really important actually that when you do go to these events that you set an intention and you decide why you want to be there. What's the ROI? What do you want to get out of it? And then make sure when you come back, you set yourself some goals and actions off the back of it. Otherwise, I hate to say it, it could be a little bit of a waste of your time.
So true, a lot of waste of time. I recall back in the days early in my speaking career, I joined an organization called the PSA, the Professional Speaking Association. And you can imagine with people that speak for a living, there's a lot of egos there. There's a lot of larger than life personalities. Everyone's written a book. Everyone's got a huge following. So there's a lot of willy waving, as we call it, and ego boosting. But they had a conference every year and I would go every year and enjoy it. But it was a jolly. And I said to my wife one time, I'm not going to go this year. And she said, why not? And I said, because I've not implemented the things that I wrote down that I said I would do from last year's conference. I just came back, put my notes to one side because you take a couple of days out, your inbox then fills up, your voicemails fill up, everything's now current, and you doing that stuff that sounded life-changing at the time just falls to the side, and you never get that slower day to come back to it and say, let me implement.
Yeah, and this is the thing. There can be so much information, and I think we have to choose our vendors, our guides, our inspiration, our mentors wisely, because there is so much messaging and we are bombarded by information constantly. Unless you've got an intention of what you want to change and know that about yourself, your practice, your business, and the means to go and change it. So one of the things that I always joke about myself is I've got a million ideas, but I'm absolutely rubbish at implementing any of them. I am not an implementer. If you look at if everyone's ever done a Colby score, look at my Colby score. I'm, in terms of like fact find and follow through, my scores are massively low, but quick start, off the scale. Happy to have an idea and run away with it, as long as I've got somebody around me to actually go and do the thing for me. If you're that sort of person and you're attending conferences all the time, I'd just be out having a lovely time and collecting free t-shirts and coffee mugs and whatever else, and come back and do absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, when you're intentional, when you attend things and you go there thinking, well, I really want to find a new vendor that does this, and these are my criteria, and this is what good looks like, and this is how I will know if it's been successful, you can attend these events and come out of it with a clear action and something you've really gained from it. And then it makes it massively worthwhile. And that's, I think, the important thing, because that's ultimately, that's what they're there for. They're there for you to meet interesting people and take some actions and improve your business. It's a real shame to waste that opportunity.
Yes, and we have a lot of conversations, don't we, about pricing and value and getting the most for our time, which is our most valuable resource. When you spend a day or two out, including all the travel and expenses there, you're not earning anything by going to that event. Nobody gets paid to attend events, really. We get paid on the results of those events, the impacts, what gets changed, unless you're employed by somebody. I suppose that might be slightly different.
Yeah.
But it is incumbent upon us to make that time count, whatever that looks like. And so you're right, we've got to be so intentional. From my networking days, I spent many years teaching professionals how to network. I would say judge a third. So spend a third of your time putting together your ROI and your research and deciding whether or not you should go to that event and who's going to be there and who do you need to talk to. Then spend a third of your time at the event. Then spend a third of your time following up and implementing. It's crude, but it says if you go into a day's event, that's going to take 3 days out of your calendar.
Yeah.
All told, if you're really going to make it work. Otherwise, don't go.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fine to have a jolly. Sometimes you're in the mood for it and you've got the space and whatever else. And I'm not being Scrooge here. I'm not saying you can't go and have fun. But if you are going to, especially if you're going to lots of them, just think about what you want to get out of it and look at, maybe you've seen one speaker at one event, maybe you want to see a different speaker at a different event, maybe they're doing a different topic. Perhaps you're seeing them speaking about the same thing at 2 different events, and you want to see how that message has evolved, and you might have some questions for them. So try and speak to them beforehand. Say, look, I want to talk to you afterwards. Do you have any space for a bit of a walk and talk or a 5-minute coffee? Like you said, a bit of planning means you'll get something out of these. But I've definitely been guilty of what you said, which is to go to these events, come back with a load of ideas, have a wonderful time, and then 6 months later I open a drawer and discover my notebook that has all those great ideas in, and I've done absolutely nothing with them. And that means that whilst I did have a lovely time, probably not the most productive thing for me to have been doing.
No, and FOMO is a great phrase, that fear of missing out. You want to be part of the conversation. You want to be in the photographs. You want to be remembered, and maybe even thinking about your brand. You're feeling that if you're not there, you're not getting talked about. You're not raising the awareness of what you're doing. You're not dictating the narrative or being part of the story. So you get forgotten about, and that means you lose out on business. You lose out on strategic partnerships. So that loss can be a big factor in pushing you to go to something you might be able to gain from in another way.
It's also something to consider as well. If you are a speaker and you have a very public profile and you're conspicuous by your absence at something, what does that say? Does it say that you're so successful and busy you couldn't possibly make time for this otherwise important thing? Or does it say, are you out of favor and you should no longer be there? And you have to think about that. And it is something I think if you do have a profile, you have to consider. But ultimately, you do have to get something out of it, whether that's brand awareness, profile, new vendors, relationships, actions, ideas. There has to be a takeaway. Even if it's just your takeaway is, I want to go here and come out of here feeling refreshed and energized and having had fun. Just find a way to measure that for yourself so that you don't feel like you've just wasted a couple £100 on hotel rooms, trains, and days out of the office.
This is great, Lucy, and obviously applicable to our UK audience, because we're talking about Accountex here, which is one of the biggest events in the calendar. Certainly Accountex London is one of the best in the world. Accountex North is a growing show and there were a lot of people there. It was very well attended. Martin and I did an episode recently on mentioning Accounting Web Live and the stuff they've got going on, the awards. We mentioned the Digital Accountancy Show and the International Accounting Forum. They're all going on there. I'm just mindful of the word schadenfreude. Have you come across that one?
Yes.
That idea of being delighted in other people's misfortunes.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is that when you look at the photographs of these events and you talk to people, everyone will say it was the best ever. It was fantastic. It was really, really great. You really missed out. It was buzzing. And they've got to say that because they can't say it was really boring. There was nobody there. Our stand was empty. So there's that, maybe a little bit of lying or building it up that increases the FOMO when it's really not the case.
And I think as well, you know, if you've spent time, even just as an attendee, even if you're not exhibiting, if you've spent your time, energy, money going to something and you didn't enjoy it that much, you kind of have to lie to yourself a little bit. You don't say, because otherwise you're admitting to yourself that you made a mistake.
Yes,
so
I made a bad choice. I had a lousy time. You'd never say that.
I had a terrible time. I'm never going again. Yeah, people don't tend to say that. And maybe it's a nice thing in that people look for the positives in what they have done. But I think just go in with a plan. Go in with a plan. And like I said, I did have massive FOMO, but when I had a word with myself and thought about it, it just didn't fit in this year. It might fit in next year, but this year it just wasn't a fit in terms of everything else I've got going on. And it was one day. And how much can it would have been, as it's one day in time, but it would have been kind of 3 days really, and it at a critical moment in what I'm doing, I couldn't do it as much as it pained me to watch everyone else having fun online.
And just finally, Lucy, something we do want to create FOMO about is pronation, because that is something that accounting practitioners should be a part of. Just tell us real quickly what's going on there.
Beautiful segue there, Rob. Lovely. Yes, so Pronation is a coaching mastermind, I guess, community really, that myself, Will Farnell, and Carl Reeder, the three amigos, are developing and launching. And it's about having a safe space to discuss the real issues that are going on in your accounting practice, your accounting business, and getting into the real granular detail, the nuts and bolts of what growing a successful firm looks like. And I say growing could be having the best staff, having more time for yourself. It could be huge top line, bottom line growth. Success looks like what you want it to look like. It might be that you only work 1 day a week. We can, between the three of us, we've got the experience to help people on that journey and help them develop the skill sets and tactics and business models to allow them to achieve that. And I'm so excited about it. Firstly, because I get to hang out with Carl and Will more often, which is always a treat for me, because I genuinely feel whenever I talk to them, like I've learned something. I'm like, oh wow, I feel like I'm getting coached here as well. I'm sure they say the same about me.
Of course they do.
But it's a real opportunity to speak to other industry professionals who've been there, done it. I think I said on one of our other shows, I think we've got over 50 years, over half a centuries of experience between us.
You only look 25, Lucy.
Well, they're both much older than me. Yeah, oh, good. I could turn 40 in a couple of months. That's terrifying. I know. Where's that gone? But yes, I think it's a real opportunity to tap into some real life, no holds barred, warts and all experience and advice from three people who are very happy to share every mistake they've ever made with everyone.
Hopefully we've created some FOMO there and people will be in it, or they know they will miss out, and that's definitely something that will give them ROI. Lucy Cohen, thanks so much for being our guest on UK Matters in Accounting today.
You're very welcome, Rob.